Hello, my name is Clayton Rugh. I'm the General Manager, Technical Director, and Chief Everything Officer for Xero Flor America, the green roof company. I'm speaking to you today from Ford Motor Company's Dearborn truck plant, located in Dearborn, Michigan, the home of one of the world's largest green roofs, installed almost exactly 10 years ago today. This happens to coincide with the 10-year anniversary of Xero Flor America, so we're very excited about this anniversary, and we're going to use this opportunity to speak to you today about 1 decade of performance of ultra lightweight green roof systems. The Ford green roof was part of the overall Rouge manufacturing complex renovation. This project was started about 13 to 14 years ago as the decision was being made whether to rehabilitate this facility or close it down and relocate operations elsewhere. As you can well imagine, Ford Motor Company started one of their original manufacturing efforts at this very site over 110 years ago. Henry Ford made the original Model A here. PT boats were made here. Ford Mustangs were made here, and now today the Ford F-150 truck is made here. The moral of the story is, of course, that it was much more community relevant, environmentally impactful to rehabilitate this facility as a model for 21st century manufacturing. This idea was impressed upon William Clay Ford III by William McDonough, a groundbreaking ecologically minded design architect. Mr. McDonough brought to the table ideas about using the facility as a staging ground for environmental manufacturing principles, as well as environmental responsible rehabilitation. Among the many features on this facility are permeable pavement, phytoremediation, bioswales, and as you can see surrounding me, one of the world's largest green roofs. Most of these elements were part of a very robust, integrated stormwater management protocol. The great environmental and economic payback and rationalization for this effort was the alternative, which would have been as much as $20 million of new stormwater sewer excavation and installation. As an alternative to that approach, this 20-acre manufacturing facility could be overlaid with a stormwater management technology known as green roofing. A wide variety of systems were considered and evaluated at Michigan State University for ultimate use on the Dearborn truck plant. Among those systems included tray-type systems or modular green roofs, open planted systems, sometimes called grown-on green roofs, and finally a system of pre-vegetated mats. Again, the research program at Michigan State University is directed by Dr. Bradley Rugh. He and his staff and students evaluated these approaches, including a variety of maintenance and performance criteria, such as how often to fertilize, how often to irrigate, was weeding needed, what were the saturated weights, dry weights, and a variety of other features that you can learn about at Michigan State University Green Roof Program's website. Our primary purpose, however, was to look at the variety of commercially available green roof systems out in the market, mostly in Europe, and see how well they translated to this vast project. The trays were considered very interesting in their contained portability. Upon their evaluation, however, it was found that they required substantial loading weight, deeper growing medium, and that the trays themselves, once filled, were quite awkward to handle and became even fragile over time in the environment. That led to their exclusion as a possibility for this project. Open grown systems were also interesting in that you could design plant pallets. So the open grown system being, of course, bring on the base components, loose growing medium substrate, and then plant it with whole intact plants, spacings to be desired. Again, one of the advantages is you could pick the plant palette and you even make particularly interesting or design patterns. The downside for this, again, is that you needed a substantial loading weight and a deeper growing medium. Other concerns were wind insecurity. While the plants were filling in, providing vegetated coverage, the loose growing medium would be possibly prone to erosion or wind displacement. For a 10-acre green roof, that was not an acceptable risk. Finally, the pre-vegetated mat system was evaluated. This is, as it sounds, it's a similar approach to sod put in your yard. They're grown into flat textile carrier squares, pre-cultivated so that they are vegetated at the time of installation. That detail allowed a lighter weight, thinner profile green roof system, offering several advantages for load-bearing capacity as well as erosion and wind stability immediately upon installation. The pre-vegetated mat was the ultimate selected approach for greening the Dearborn truck plant. The manufacturer of the selected system was Xero Flor, a German-based company that has invented the pre-vegetated mat technology over 40 years ago and utilized it on projects around the globe. They became critical and important partners in both the evaluation and production of the pre-vegetated mat farm for harvest and transport and ultimate installation on the Dearborn truck plant. This process was initiated in May of 2002 and installation was completed in November of 2002, thereby bringing us to our 10-year anniversary here in May of 2012. The green roof at that time was the largest in the world, as recognized in the 2004 Guinness Book of World Records. A very entertaining and notable achievement. It also was my very first green roof, so in the process of learning as much as could possibly learned in essentially a 10-acre green roof exercise, as well as evaluating features of other green roof approaches. Among the benefits that Ford realized from this green roof include stormwater management, the primary reason for selection of a green roof for this facility. Thermal protection of both the building contents and the building components itself, and other interesting and ancillary benefits such as carbon sequestration. So these performance criteria were evaluated again at Michigan State University and in follow-up studies on the Dearborn truck plant in subsequent years. The most direct and important criterion was stormwater mitigation. Could the green roof effectively prevent stormwater runoff to an extent to be beneficial to the performance of this facility? Research done at Michigan State University and on-roof studies showed that up to 80% of annual stormwater is retained in the vegetated green roof. This material is utilized by the plants, ultimately evaporated back into the atmosphere. This detail alone saved Ford an immense amount of money, which otherwise would have gone to build an underground stormwater storage treatment piping and processing system. One side note to the stormwater management protocol was some qualitative analysis done by the city of Detroit. They found that the water that was leaving the Rouge facility was cleaner than the rain that fell on it, largely attributable to this green roof, the bioswales, and other biological and soil-based stormwater mitigation procedures. A second highly desirable benefit of green roofs is thermal management. This particular roof was not selected for thermal control directly, since a variety of other air handling and air conditioning sorts of details, including just natural passive air exchange in this manufacturing facility, are already doing most of the job. However, work ongoing at Michigan State University and others showed that the roof surface is greatly cooled by presence of a green roof relative to exposed roofs, and that be ballast roofs, white colored roofs, membrane covered roofs, and certainly, as we can well imagine, dark shaded or black roofs. Temperature reductions up to 80 degrees Fahrenheit can be achieved by a vegetated green roof. Michigan State did a very interesting and detailed study evaluating what energy went through the membrane of roofs, comparing conventional roofs and green roofs. And they showed that as little as 25% of the incident thermal energy is transmitted through the green roof layers into the layers below. This again has very, very profound benefits potentially for air conditioning requirement, energy conservation, and moreover, building component stability. That last detail is probably one of the more valuable benefits of green roofing: lifetime extension of the roofing components below a green roof. The waterproofing membrane itself is not subject to UV radiation, which embrittles the membrane, fatiguing it more rapidly. It's not subject to the thermal cycling each and every day, expanding and contracting the waterproofing membrane, also accelerating its fatigue within 12 to 20 year lifetimes. And alternatively, the vegetated roof extends the lifetime of the roof at least twofold, maybe threefold, so that waterproofing investment is prolonged for at least two roof replacement lifetimes. Again, quite a substantial and significant financial savings, as well as avoidance of all the disruption that a major construction project such as re-roofing a building can generate. From an environmental standpoint, the savings in waste, landfill discharge, diesel energies, and all the other inputs that go into tearing off and replacing roofs are preserved. A last benefit that again is somewhat unusual and becomes more important in the scheme of large areas of green roofs is carbon sequestration. So, in other words, could CO2, one of the principal greenhouse gases, be absorbed by a green roof to the extent that it becomes an important environmental benefit for global warming control? And now I'd like to tell you some more about the Xero Flor system specifically. The system was selected for the Dearborn truck plant for a variety of reasons, some of which were logistical concerns as well as performance-based criterion. Some of the more important technical considerations of the Xero Flor system were, of course, that it was pre-vegetated, so we were using fully grown mats. The fully grown mats have the advantage, again, of having the plants already in place, relatively mature, and rapidly rooting. This allows any of the exposed loose growing medium to be controlled in place, so not prone to wind or rain erosion. Another very important consideration was to obtain the proposed green roof benefits directly. Loose growing medium or exposed growing medium would not be as effective in stormwater control or thermal mitigation, so the pre-vegetated mat offered that benefit as well. Other certified performance criteria for the Xero Flor system was resistance of the assembled green roof components to wind uplift displacement. So again, being a lightweight system, it's conceivable that winds could lift the system or lift up a flat, dry system and move it around the roof or worse, off of the roof. Xero Flor had been extensively tested by certified uplift analysis laboratories to show that less than 1% of the uplift pressure is actually impacting the permeable vegetated assembly. For a roof 10 acres in size, 60 feet off the ground, and an active production facility, this was a very important consideration. Another certification that was valuable for the forward roof was fire resistance. There is no exposed flame on this operating manufacturing plant, but in the worst case scenario, some ember from some nearby building lands on the vegetated roof. The owners wanted confidence that this wouldn't in any way propagate itself into a fire situation. The Xero Flor assembly had been evaluated by numerous testing laboratories and shown not to promote the spread of flame or perpetuate ignition. Another very unusual and valuable criteria was its local sourcing. Growing the entire vegetated cover within a mere 5 miles of the plant we're standing on was a very interesting opportunity. It allowed the same regional climate to impact the ecology of the system, knowing again that we're not bringing system from a different horticultural zone and thereby causing possible failure of some of the vegetated palette. So those are the majority of reasons why during the evaluation process the Xero Flor system was selected for the Ford Motor Company Dearborn truck plant. But how did it perform in the long term? So 10 years later, what have we learned about ultra thin layer systems, very, very low profile green roof systems, and how well are they adapted to the Michigan and regional climate, perhaps even the whole US market. Since its time of installation, the green roof has continued to thrive and experience a very dynamic vegetated diversity. The community has grown and plant palette has dynamically changed within the original 15 selected species. We conducted an evaluation of the currently existing species and found that of the 15 originally planted, 13 of those species exist today. We also had the addition of volunteer moss plants. I can't even call them species because I'm not good enough at moss identification to know how many we have, except to say a casual survey of the vegetated palette on this roof today shows that there's probably 8 to 10 different moss species intermixed throughout the sedum community. And as we've learned with half century of green roofing in Germany, moss becomes a very desirable and compatible cohort of a dynamic green roof system. Excessive moss is an indicator of overwatering or maybe poor drainage. Too little moss may mean that the system is too xeric, and you'll be also limited in your number of higher plant species. Only a few of the more robust sedum plants can survive. A modest amount of moss, in our case about 20% of the vegetated coverage, shows that you'll probably have a very broad variety of sedum plants surviving and thriving, as well as that understory moss layer. Moreover, we found during our analysis that the spring palette is very different from the autumn plant palette. This is understood because of the 13 surviving species, some of the species are ever-leaved, or also known as evergreen, and they keep their leaves throughout the year. Over winter season, they typically turn red and shrink back, but the plant is always visible. On the other hand, deciduous species, which make up about half of the 13 remaining species, drop their leaves into the soil layer over the course of the winter season. This allows a self-generating organic complement to the soil and to the root zone. More interestingly, it allows the plant palette to be dynamic throughout the growing season, where those everleaf species are the first to green, the first to fill up, and the first to give vegetated coverage. As the season progresses from month to month, you see a dynamic change in flowering, leaf color, as well as which species are becoming the principal vegetated coverage. By midpoint of the summer, the deciduous species, frequently the broader leaf species, become the dominant vegetated coverage. This makes a more vibrant and diverse profile green roof towards the end of the growing season, again allowing another wave of different flower colors, another wave of different leaf shapes. This again all contributes to the other species that play a role in our living roof. The Ford roof has been subject to several studies evaluating what other creatures come to the roof. Just walking up here today, we see that there's lots of honeybees, numerous pollinating insects, and we see evidence of Canada goose nests that goslings have already left the roof. Lots of birds have been up here probably investigating some of their prey, all these myriad insects that are thriving throughout the vegetated palette. Earlier studies have shown that there's dozens of species of insects colonizing the vegetated palette on this roof. Again, we've seen on our visit today probably a half dozen different birds coming down and patrolling the roof or just using it as a resting place. So again, after 10 years, we see that the vegetated coverage from my perspective, and perhaps you can see behind me, is nearly 100%. This roof receives a very minimum amount of support maintenance, essential but minimal. The irrigation system is still intact from its early establishment phase, but now instead of being used once a week or so, which it required for the first 2 years, it's now being used 2 or 3 times a year during the hotter part of the summer season. The roof receives 1 time a year application of spring slow-release fertilizer, which it was applied just only 2 weeks ago. So we're starting to see some of the effects of it as the plants are starting to green up and fill up at this early part of the spring growing season for the Detroit area. Other than that, no weeding is ever performed. The thin profile system and this dense vegetated coverage excludes weed establishment. So again, the roof doesn't require crews to maintain, service, or otherwise monitor the green roof. It does the job it's supposed to be doing with minimum of oversight and service. So this roof, again, is a very unusual roof in the green roof market in the U.S. Most green roofs in the U.S. market are several inches deep, maybe 4 to 6 inches deep for an extensive green roof or a so-called thin profile green roof. This roof, on the other hand, is less than 3 inches thick. It has a saturated weight of less than 10 pounds per square foot. This is a very, very thin system in the general U.S. market. But as you can see behind me, and certainly over the course of a decade of testing and exposure to the elements, we can see that it continues to thrive and has every expectation to do so for decades to come. Do we get the benefits of green roofing on this roof? As mentioned previously, engineers associated with the facility have evaluated roof runoff and shown that it is retaining up to 75 to 80% of the stormwater that lands on it. Core samples were taken out of the roofing structure below the green roof and in similar structures adjacent to the green roof, and showed that the deterioration of the waterproofing components is being mitigated or prevented by overlay by the green roof, whereas the exposed layers are showing their expected deterioration after only 4 or 5 years' time, and again at 10-year sampling showing virtually no age-related damage or deterioration to the roof structure underneath the green roof. A Xero Flor is an amalgamated word standing for dry plant. It's coined by the founder of Xero Flor International, Wolfgang Behrens, who created the Xero Flor concept and technology almost 50 years ago today. Xero Flor is now the brand of the world's most extensively used green roof system, which has been in operation for almost 5 decades now, based out of North Germany. The Xero Flor green roof system has been used around the world with franchisees in China, France, England, Canada, the US. Recent partners to our Xero Flor family include Mexico, Colombia, and we are continuing to expand our horticultural horizons as we develop systems and approaches for wider applications, not just on roofs, but on walls, at grade, roadside, and a variety of other horticultural applications.